Hello to you, yes, you. Thank you for joining us today. This is Trinity Conservative Christians on and off campus. My name is Monica Evans, and this is rated PG. If you wonder what is that, is PG for parental guidance. And it is a pleasure to be connected with you today. We're Bible believing Christians, and a disclosure that I want to give you is that the views and comments I'll be sharing today are actually my own, and I am not an expert in parenting. I am a parent myself. I am happily married thus far, going into 20 years, and I'm a mom of 2 boys. And besides that, I just want to share my parental journey with you. If in case you wonder, my name is once again Monica Evans, and today we're continuing with the series regarding honor. So 2 weeks ago, I had a special guest from a ministry, a really good ministry that is Urban Youth Justice, and with Pedro Rodriguez, and he shared about honoring God. We wanted to start the series with honoring God since he is the creator of the universe, and we want to be sure that we honor him first and foremost. So he shared really good insights, and he shared about honoring God vertically and also horizontally. So vertically will be like praying, fasting, worshiping, and horizontal is the way that we treat one another. Especially within the Christian community, I think everyone will know Christ by the love that we have for one another, and for sure to have this desire to serve. So that was a good reminder. And today we are going to talk about honoring parents. Not so long ago it was Mother's Day, and in a couple of weeks it's going to be Father's Day, and the second authority I think will be parents. They are given to us and we ought to honor them. Today I have a special guest. His name is Isaiah Evans. He has an Instagram account. It's called Die to Yourself, or Die to Self. And he is a musician. He is also about to be a senior in a couple of days. And he supports the worship team for Maricopa Springs Family Church in Arizona. And he's also my son, so I'm very glad that he's going to be joining us today. So let's go ahead and invite him. So let's see, I think I need to add this. Okay, so I think he will be joining soon. He's connecting right now. Hello, Isaiah.
Hi, Mom.
How are you?
I am okay. I'm a little nervous, but I'm doing good.
Okay, well, thank you so much for making time to connect with us and with Trinity and its members. I know it can be like a little bit nerve-wracking, but once again, thank you so much. And we're interested about like having this question and answer session to get to know about the subject of honoring God. And it will be interesting to hear from your perspective. So, by the way, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to go ahead and send them in the comment section, and I'll be reading as we have this conversation. So, Isaiah, when is that you became aware of the word honor?
So the phrase honor, actually, the first memory that I have of it that I can recall is when I was younger watching the movie Mulan. There's a lot of the Chinese culture actually revolves around honor. And you can tell in the story of Mulan, she's trying to honor her father by going to the military to protect him. But by doing so, she's dishonoring her ancestors. And so I remember just that being my first recollection of the word honor.
Oh, okay. That's interesting, actually, to have recollection of that movie and pairing it up with the word honor. So, like as in simple terms, honor is to have high respect or esteem for others. So from the biblical perspective, what does the Bible says about honoring your parents?
I'm glad you asked. I have many references of the Bible talking about honoring and obeying your parents. So honoring your father and mother, it's being respectful in word and action, and having esteem to their position. So take, for example, like a president, right? Um, because you may not agree with what the president is doing, but because of his position, you honor him, you support his position. So I have a few Bible passages. If any of you have your Bibles, you can flip with me, of course. So first of all, honoring is not just something that, you do with your words, it's on the outside, on the inside. And Mark chapter 7, verse 6, Jesus is criticizing people. He's saying, people honored God with their lips, but not with their hearts. They were far from hearts. So, first of all, honor is not just something, on the outside. It's also an internal, feeling, that you have towards something. Also, in Proverbs 13:1, I will flip there. I have it. Proverbs 13:1 says, "A wise son hears his father's instruction, but a scoffer does not listen to rebuke." So, they listen to what their parents say. They take into consideration their criticisms. They do not turn it away. Even Solomon, the wisest man, according to the Bible, he tells his children to obey their parents in Proverbs. Jesus honored his parents. In Luke chapter 2, verse 51, it says, "And he went down with them and came to Nazareth and was submissive to them. And his mother treasured up all these things in her heart." That's another example of, honoring the Bible. I have many passages. It's in the Ten Commandments. God, you can tell, like, through the Old Testament, that God really, he really has a high expectation for honoring your parents and obeying them, outside and inside. And the Bible even criticizes those who don't. For example, in Romans chapter 1, verse 38, it speaks on those who deny God and turn to the lust of their heart. And in this passage, it mentions people who disobey their parents, and he's criticizing them. And in 2 Timothy, it even says, those who dishonor their parents, to avoid them, it's a sin to a certain extent. It deserves death if you dishonor your parents. God really esteems honoring your parents.
Wow, I'm actually impressed that you brought so many Bible verses, and it's not because you're my son, but I was like, whoa. Especially because usually I think people bring, by all means, the Ten Commandments, but you brought like a lot of verses, not only from the Old Testament, but also from the New Testament, to point out that indeed, like, God cares about honor and the way that we treat, in this case, our parents. So, do you think it's easy to show honor to your parents?
I think at times, yes, it's easy, but sometimes I find it very difficult.
Okay, can you expound a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I think, me personally, the hardest time to honor my parents is when they're in the wrong. The Bible calls parents, to not be overbearing to their children. And I think at times when they have a difficult time, or they're in sin, I think it can justify me dishonoring them or going against them, maybe if it's raising my voice. And at times like those, I find it hard, or anytime our wills clash, we each have different wills. Parents, I think most of the time they want what's good for the kid and loving, but sometimes, like, I don't understand that, as you know, because you're my mother. And, it can be hard to honor their intention when it goes against my intentions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. I think even for me, as a mom, I have my mom too. And if I'm in disagreement, or maybe I don't like maybe some of the things that she mentioned to me, I may be like, I don't know about that. However, what does the Bible say about that? Like, am I supposed to honor just, I don't know if we agree, or just like in certain occasions, or what do you know what does it say about it?
Can you repeat the question?
Like, do we show honor just when we're in agreement, or when everything is good?
Definitely not. the Bible doesn't say, honor your parents, but if they do this, then don't honor them. Honoring your parents at all time. You should honor your parents at all time. Yeah, that's all I have to really say about that. There's
Yeah.
it's difficult at times. There's definitely trials when it's going to be hard to honor your parents, hard to respect them and have a good attitude towards them in your heart. But even then, through God, you can overcome any trial. And um, I'm not just going to disobey God because I'm having a trial or I'm having a rough time. That shouldn't be the mindset.
Right, for sure. I will agree with that. So for the ones who are viewing right now, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to use the comment section. Today we're talking about honoring parents. 2 weeks ago we talked about honoring God. And actually 2 weeks from now we're going to talk about honoring authority. So that will be an interesting topic, and we'll have also a special guest. So right now, once again, the subject that we're talking about is honoring God. And we have today a guest who is Isaiah Evans. He's about to be a senior, and he's sharing about honor from the biblical perspective. And he's a son at this stage of his life. So I wanted to hear what he has to say about honoring parents. So you mentioned that at times it's not easy to show honor. You mentioned that God doesn't ask us to go ahead. The way that we show honor is not based on whether things are good all the time. It is at all times, really. So what would you say to maybe a peer or someone that maybe have parents who are harsh, or like maybe parents who, you know what, is so like difficult to honor? In fact, maybe they want to go ahead and do the opposite. What suggestion, or how would you counsel them?
Well, first and foremost, I would advise them to pray about it, and ask maybe their church or anyone they know of who claims Christ to be praying for them, because there's power in prayer. Second, if it is to a point where it's really bad, where their parents are sinning, I think you could bring it up to your church elders, because they care for your family and the heart of the family, and maybe they can work with your family to ensure that you all have a dynamic that brings the glory to God. Through that, I would encourage them to continue honoring their parents, because, like I said earlier, it can be hard and that's a trial. But only through God can you get through these trials. So really lean on Him and practice the fruits of the Spirit, practice your patience, your kindness, your loving. That's what I would advise people who are in that situation.
Yeah, you know what? I do appreciate that you are bringing, in this case, the community, and you mentioned to bring the people that you do life with. And I truly believe that that is what Christians ought to do, to live in this community where it's not only about gathering on a Sunday morning or maybe for an hour, but it's like this constant sharing life, because in doing so, I think we can go ahead and bring those difficult situations, and we can keep each other accountable.
Yeah.
Because at times, I'm your mom, and you can go ahead and testify that I lose my temper, and then or vice versa, however, because we have this desire to honor God first and foremost. And I think in the initially you mentioned, like, it is even an issue of the heart, so it comes from the inside out. So if that is our desire, then we will be prompt to keep each other accountable. So I do appreciate that. So I also appreciate the fact that you brought up Bible verses from the Old Testament and the New Testament. For the people that are just joining right now, we are doing a series, and this is rated PG for parental guidance, and it's regarding honoring parents. And well, that is today. 2 weeks ago, we talked about honoring God. 2 weeks from now, we'll go ahead and talk about honoring authority. So Isaiah, from at the age that you are at, is this a topic that even comes in conversations? Do you care about that word? Like, what do you think from your perspective or from the circles where you are at?
Well, I mean, I have multiple circles, you know, that I'm involved with, and from the two sides, I guess there's a more secular group and a more Christ-centered group. I can say for the most part, people do talk about their conflicts with their parents often,
Hmm.
uh, and I guess the result of that, like how they respond to it. Um, and oftentimes, like especially in the more secular group, I think a lot of kids, you know, don't. It sounds like they don't honor their parents, nor do they like. It's not really a concern of theirs whether or not they're honoring their parents. It's not a topic most kids talk about, but I know like in my Christian circles, oftentimes um, we do talk about our relationships with our parents and how we respond to them and how we should act. My Christian friend circle, um, you know, we share our struggles, and sometimes that is I'm not listening to my parents, or I'm struggling with my mother or father. You know, there's conflict between us, and we'll lift each other up. We'll give each other advice. You know, of course it's always going. Of course it's always going to go to along the lines of, you know, honor your parents. You know, listen to them. Like pray that God transforms your heart, to have patience with them. But you know, they also bring up recommendations like you know, try talking to them, express how you feel, you know. And I'm blessed to be in a community of Christians to the point where like if there was a serious issue, my parents probably would be addressed by other, you know, other Christians who are more mature than I am.
I see. So in the secular groups that you mentioned, when kids maybe feel like they have the right to maybe be rude to their parents, like how does that go about? Like do other people talk into their life, or if someone were to talk into their life, are they like push aside or they ponder about that? Do you know?
Well, as far as I know, it's a lot of people, you know, with a secular mind view, they think like if someone does you wrong, then it is in your ability and you should be able to do something wrong back to them. That is a very common mindset in secular groups. So I think a lot of the times, like someone says, "Oh, my mom, she was yelling at me. She did this to me," and so I, you know, cursed her out. A lot of people will be like, "Well, you had all the right to do that,"
Hmm.
and kind of, you know, be like, go you for standing up for yourself. I don't think I've seen like many secular people stand up for like we're paying like ill intention with kindness. You know, I
Hmm.
don't a super common mindset. You know, it's almost foreign to those with a secular mind view.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Isaiah. Don't go yet. Let me remind the people that are watching right now. This is a series regarding honor. So today we're talking about honoring our parents. And I think honoring our parents come at each level of our life, whether you are an adult, whether you're a teenager, whether you are a child. Um, so at each stage of our life, we can show honor to our parents. And so, Isaiah, what are some ways, practical ways that we can show honor to our parents?
Like the passages I mentioned before, I think, you know, with your outwards, your outwards expression, you know, what you do for them, do you obey them? You know, how do you talk to your parents? Um, those are a way you can show to honor your parent. You know, like if they tell me to do something and I do it, if I do it with a good attitude, I think that's a big part of honoring. You know, if my parents tell me take out the trash, but I'm grumbling and I have a bad heart, then I don't think I'm honoring their requests. At the same time, you know, uphold their position in your mind. You know, um, they're put in authority over you the same way like the government is put over authority in you. You know, you submit to them, and if you have that mindset, like I'm going to submit them and fulfill my position in a loving way, then you will be honoring them by doing so. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you mentioned a good point, and I think in everything that we do, even in like you mentioned, taking the trash out, or maybe cleaning the bathrooms, or doing those tasks that maybe are not the most pleasant, we can, by doing it with good attitude and with the attitude that comes from the heart, we can glorify God. And by doing so, we're honoring, in this case, our parents or whomever is put in that authority position. Why do you think that it's easier to be nice? And this is kind of the external manifestation maybe, or of caring for others, to maybe a principal at the school than maybe mom or dad. And by that I mean, sometimes I notice, like, someone can be like very fast and like show aggravation or why not at home, but maybe in the school you're like, someone may be less willing to like explode. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think it's familiarity that you have to your parents that you don't have with the teachers at your school. Like when I go to school, I'm not as close to my principal as I am with my parents. And so I think because of that, it's easier to have patience for people that you're not super acquainted with. Also, if I talk bad to my principal, I think the consequences could be a lot more serious. Like I can get expelled or suspended. Versus I think like a lot of people when they misbehave at home, their consequences don't have a direct impact on like their social life or their education. The consequences are more, I guess, weighty like at a school.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that you bring a interesting point, that is like the familiarity, because even like in our jobs, some people won't be talking to their boss certain way, but at home, maybe a different story. And it shouldn't be the case. We should be the same, especially when we're claiming Christ. I think we should be the same everywhere, because I can only imagine how tiring may be to show this appearance in this place, but not at home, or vice versa. I think that is tiring. For the ones that are joining right now, this is a series about honoring parents. Well, the series is about honor. Today we're talking about honoring parents. We have Isaiah that is with us right now, and he's sharing about honoring parents from the biblical perspective and also through his lenses. He is about to be a senior. So in this case, like I'm very interested about hearing what he has to say. And so far, he has shared a lot of insightful information. And more so, I really appreciated that you share a lot of Bible verses, not only from the Old Testament, but also from the New Testament, where you share with us that God really, really cared about the subject of honor. By the way, if you are not a Trinity member, I will highly suggest you to become one. There is a lot of work that goes behind the scene, and there is going to be like a Bible, a book club coming up. There is also going to be some type of mentorship coming up. So be on the lookout to that. There is a newsletter. So there is a lot of things that goes behind the scene. Isaiah, when it comes to the passages that you have read to us, which one is the one that I don't know, like spoke the loudest maybe to you, or the one that was like, oh wow, I didn't really pay attention much to this passage before?
I think it was the two passages, Romans 1:30 and 2 Timothy 3:2, where they their passages talk. Oh, okay. So like Romans 1:30, right? Let me turn.
Oh, I think his connection got lost. So let's go ahead and see. Oh, there you are, Isaiah.
I got a phone call from my grandpa. I had to decline.
Okay, sorry.
Let's hope he doesn't call again. So Romans 1:30. I'll start from 28. Actually, I'll start from 26. It's a very rich passage.
Okay.
For this reason, God gave them up to their dishonorable passions. For their women exchanged natural relations for those that are contrary to nature. And the men likewise gave up their natural relations with women and were consumed with passion for one another. Men committed shameless acts with men and receiving in themselves the due penalty for their error. And since they did not see fit to acknowledge God, God gave them up to a debased mind to do what ought not to be done. They were filled with all manner of unrighteousness, evil, covetousness, and malice. They are full of envy, murder, strife, deceit, maliciousness. They are gossips, slanderers, haters of God, insolent, haughty, boastful, inventors of evil, disobedient to parents, foolish, faithless, heartless, ruthless. Though they know God's righteous decree that those who practice such things deserve to die, they do not do them, but give approval to those who practice them. So it's really grouping. It groups in, you know, being disobedient to parents, and that never caught my attention before. But it's comparing them to all these other sins that we elevate in our mind. We think, oh, these are so bad, and then when you think about disobeying your parents, you're like, you know, oh, that's not a big deal. But it even says like they lead to death. You know, it's a shameless act. So I don't know. That passage really just like blew my mind.
Oh my gosh, that's so interesting. Even that you mentioned right now, because it's so like that's so interesting about the God that we serve. Like he really cares about the heart and the intentions of the hearts, and like for some it may be nitpicking, but I just find like joy in knowing that he cares about like how we treat one another, as much as how we treat our own body, and so on and so forth. So that was a really cool passage. Thank you for sharing that, Isaiah. And before you mention also like ways that we can go ahead and honor our parents. It can be by the way that we go about doing the different tasks that they tell us. And then you also point at Jesus, like he honored his dad, the, the father, you know, and he also honored his mother, the way that he went about life. So I do appreciate that. So any like closing remarks that you would like to say regarding this specific subject?
I don't. I don't. Other than I'm. It's honor is very important in the eyes of God. You know, He puts people in authority of us, and to ensure our well-being. You know, to bring an order to life, and He values them. You know, and I don't know. I think like as I was doing research for this, it was just astounding, like how much he upholds it, how important it is, and what it looks like, you know, in his eyes. And so just be aware, like your actions, even your heart, which is the most important. They all will be reflections of you and how you honor those in authority to you. And it's important, you know. You should honor, you know.
Yes, for sure. Well, those are really good reminders. And as I was sharing before, honoring our parents is not like it's an issue of like age. It's not because like you're younger, you ought to honor your mom and dad, or it's not because you're a teenager or a young adult. I think at each stage of our life, we can honor our parents. And to your point, like God put things in order. He's a God of order, and so he created the family unity. He also created like authority, so we ought to show honor, in this case first and foremost to God, and then out of that relationship we can go ahead and show honor to our parents and the people around us. So we have 2 minutes left. If in case anyone has a question or a comment, right now is your time. Isaiah, he has his Instagram account. Is it Die to Yourself or Die to
Yes, it's
Yourself?
Die to Yourself.
Can you tell us what is that about? Why that name?
I actually have a post speaking on it. There is a passage in the Bible. I don't know if I can find it, but it's speaking of, you know, when Jesus died on the cross. You know, he was reborn, and we too, you know, when we are reborn, we die to ourselves. Our flesh dies with all the sin, and we become reborn into something new.
Yeah, that's a really good reminder too, you know, that we ought to die to ourselves, and in that we find life, which is so contradictory to what the culture says nowadays, because the culture tends to point at self a lot, and we are to die to self, and so then Christ can live in us. And thank you, Mercedes. She says that she loves us both, and she is enjoying the topic today. So thank you so much for those encouraging words. Let's remember to pray for one another, because it is good. And I think that honors God as well. And so we will go ahead and meet in 2 weeks, and it's going to be at 3 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Today we had Isaiah, who was our guest. He's about to be a senior, and he is a musician. I am biased. I think he creates good music. Thank you once again, Isaiah, for your willingness to connect with us today. If you are not a Trinity member, be sure that you become one. It takes like less than 5 minutes to become one. And there is a lot of work behind scenes. There is going to be a book club coming up. Sign up for that. There is going to be a mentorship. Sign up for that. And thank you so much for connecting with us today. And it is my desire for you to have a good day, and may you be willing to walk with Christ every single day of your life. Thank you, Isaiah, and goodbye, everyone. Have a good one. Bye.
Bye. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.